Before getting started, I thought it would be a good idea to introduce myself as your host on this podcast and give you a little flavor about what to expect from the podcast. So, to do that, I've brought along my little brother, Imran.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Who I've asked him to write up some questions. Hope they're good ones, bro.
You'll be surprised, man. You'll be surprised.
Really?
Yeah.
They're not too hard, are they?
I mean, I don't like it hard when it comes to questions, so
Okay, cool.
I'll be easy on you, man.
Cool. So, yeah, take it away, man. Let's see what you got for me.
So I guess I'll start off simple. What's your name?
My name is Shez.
Your name is Shez?
Yes,
I didn't really know that before, man.
You didn't know that before?
No, man.
You've known me for how many years and you don't know my name?
16 years. You learn something new every day, I guess.
Cool. Okay, so my name is Shez.
So, how old are you?
I actually just turned 25 2 weeks ago. You know what's weird? I don't really put a lot about myself out on my page on Halal Food Diary, so this is probably the first time I'm giving people a bit of insight into myself. So,
Yeah.
Yep, Shez, 25.
You finally made it a bit more bait, haven't you?
A bit. Very, very little. Not much. I'm not giving away too much.
Well, gonna give it away even more. What's your profession? Like, what's your job?
So I work in finance. So I studied economics at university. I
Yeah.
went to University of Birmingham.
How were the results?
They were okay. Could have done better, but alhamdulillah, it was good. And then I worked at one of the big four and I did my accounting qualification there. And then now I work for a retailer in finance.
Oh.
Sounds boring, doesn't it?
I mean, it's better than my life right now.
Huh? Bro, you're still young.
Yeah. So, what is the main reason behind you starting this podcast then?
Okay, that's a good question. I guess obviously I run the page Halal Food Diary, and I have done so for about 2 years now. And running this page, I've had the chance to meet so many interesting people. They're owners of restaurants, chefs, just people that I've met at sort of blogging events. All these people who have really cool stories.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the halal niche, there wasn't really anywhere where people can share their stories.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess what I wanted to do is create a platform where people can share their story of how they got to where they are today. So whether that be the owners of some of like my favorite halal restaurants or some of the brands that you see at exhibitions, I just wanted to give them a platform. In terms of how the podcast came about, so I originally had this idea a few months ago, and the way I wanted to do it was I wanted to put it into a sort of interview where I sit with someone, I have a chat with them, and someone's typing it up.
Okay.
Yeah, but and then I'll release it as a blog post on my website. But I sort of quickly realized that wasn't going to work. People don't like reading. I know you don't like reading. I try to
Personally, no.
I try to get you to do your homework and you don't do that. So
What's homework, man?
so like I know people are not too fond of reading long articles, so I sort of just left the idea. I totally forgot about it. And then I went to Turkey in February.
Yes.
So while I was in Turkey, I met up with a friend there. His name's Faisal. He actually runs a podcast as well by the name of Freshly Grounded.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
We went for dinner and we were just having a chat, and I was basically telling him about my idea of how I wanted to create this sort of platform where people can share their stories and in the form of an article, and how I just had this idea but just threw it away. And he told me, no, bro, I've got an amazing idea of how you can make this work. Why don't you start a podcast?
Okay.
And then I was like, you know what? I thought it was a great idea, but I wasn't sure whether or not it would work or whether or not I could do it.
Whether it was like for you.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's for me.
Okay.
He sort of told me, look, bro, I think it's a great idea. Why don't you go with it? Came back to London, listened to a few. So I've listened to a few podcasts in the past, but I've not been a massive, those people who listen to podcasts all day long.
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't really one of them, but I started to get more into it. And some of the podcasts that I've always liked listening to, I just got ideas from them and thought, you know what? I need to do it. And that's where we are now. So yeah, I guess it's an idea I've had for a while and it's just sort of developed, and I just thought a podcast would be the best way to do it.
It kind of makes you feel like you're a part of the ongoing conversation.
Exactly. I feel like it's a way to
engage.
Yeah, engage, get deep and personal with a person and get to know them in more of a personal level as opposed to just when you write something down, it can lose the personal touch, or it can
you kind of feel a bit like, oh, it's just the same thing over and over again. But this is like, it's renewed and it's different each time.
Even when you hear someone's voice, right? You can, because a lot of the people a lot of the restaurant owners that I've spoken to and told them about my idea, I think the first thing that they weren't too keen on was the fact that they were worried it might be a video
Yeah.
podcast. And a lot of these people like to keep their personal life anonymous.
Yeah.
They like to be behind the scenes. They're sort of the brains behind the restaurant, but they don't want their face to be out there for people to know. They just want to be in the background, sort of working away. So I guess that really worked well as well, because this is an audio only podcast.
Okay,
So you just hear the person's voice. If they want to give their name, that's fine.
So sorry to cut you off, but where can these podcasts be accessed then?
So inshallah, you'll be able to find them on the Apple Podcast app,
Okay.
on Spotify, and most sort of platforms where you consume podcasts.
Okay.
I'm going to try my best to get them on there.
Inshallah.
And potentially, I'm going to think about maybe releasing on YouTube.
Okay.
I haven't really
that would be a good idea.
decided. Yeah, I definitely think it's a good idea. A lot of people use YouTube, but obviously being an audio only podcast, I'll have to see how that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely an option as well.
Perfect. I mean, one thing you said earlier, you mentioned was about favorite restaurants, and just putting you on the spot here, like off the top of your head, what would you say like your maybe top 3 favorite like restaurants are right now?
Oh, that's a bit political, bro. I can't. Do you know what? I can't say that because I don't want to.
Okay, let's narrow it down a bit. What's your favorite food?
Okay.
I think I know.
I'll
what
tell you
this
the
is.
reason I don't say favorite restaurant is I don't want to get pulled out because on my page, whenever I do like on Halal Food Diary, whenever I do like questions and people say what's your favorite restaurant,
Yeah.
I just kind of air that question 'cause I don't want to.
You don't want to make like kind of other restaurants feel bad or something like that.
Not just that.
Not feel bad, but like
I'm a bit uneasy on answering that question.
Yeah,
But in terms of my favorite type of food, it's really bad. But I think Indian food is undefeated, man.
Oh, man,
you know the
I
food
can
that we
agree
have
with
at
that.
home, stuff like that. I just love like
homemade food kind of thing. Yeah.
chicken biryani is my absolute favorite.
That's a shout, man.
So I'd say it's either Indian food or I love burgers, man.
Oh, burgers. That's
It's such a sort
number
of
one, man.
It's such a sort of Asian/Muslim meal. Isn't it? Like the first thing,
Anyone you ask, man, they'll be like, oh, Asian food or burgers, like
yeah,
burgers, chips.
it's really bad. But I think that's literally it. Like, obviously, I loved eating different types of foods.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I just eat whatever, really.
whatever's on the table, right?
Exactly, man. What's on the table?
You like that? See, there was some wisdom behind the name. But yeah, I think those are definitely my. So I'd say Indian. I love a nice juicy burger, but then I also like just experimenting, like trying random food. So
Yeah.
like when I'm abroad, I love trying things I've never tried before.
So one thing was the dessert you ate in Turkey,
Yeah, chocolate kanafa,
chocolate kanafa.
bro, that was amazing. Have you tried kanafa?
Never,
Okay.
never heard of it before. I saw it in your page.
Okay, I'll take you one day. Okay, not to
Inshallah,
Turkey,
man.
but I'll take you.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that either.
I'll take you for a normal kanafa in London.
No,
one day, inshallah.
will
But,
it be as good though?
it's good. No, it's really nice. But like, yeah, Turkish food is another favorite of mine. I love going to Turkey to eat.
Okay, so like when it comes to Halal Food Diary and also the podcast now, how would you like to grow that in the future and kind of establish it into a bigger brand? You didn't expect that, did you?
No, I'm a bit thrown on that one. So Halal Food Diary initially started. In fact, if I give you the background for Halal Food Diary,
how did you like actually start that? What
yeah.
made you sit down and think, okay, today I'm gonna start a halal food blog account?
So basically, I've always loved eating out. Even before I had the blog, I was literally eating out. I'd say 80% of what I'm eating now, I was already doing before I had the page.
Yeah.
I just love going out. Me and my sort of circle of friends, whenever we meet up after work, the first thing that comes into our mind is, okay, where should we go eat,
Yeah,
or
like food and
what's new for us to try? So I started. So I'd always. I guess it started more after I started my job. Obviously at uni, I was a bit broke. The only thing I ate was like chicken and chips at uni.
yeah, that seems to be the ongoing like.
But like after starting my job, alhamdulillah, I had an income and I was able to go out and eat. So after work, we'd be going out to try different foods, and then I'd put it on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, and on my Snapchat and
Yeah.
whatnot. And then my friends would be like, "Oh, where's that? Where was that from? How was that?" La, la, la. So
Oh, okay.
I thought, do you know what? Actually, I think someone gave me the idea. They were like, "Bro, you eat out at so many restaurants. Why don't you put them all into one place
Okay.
and then write a bit about what you thought?"
Did you kind of see the idea as like, oh, like, why would I ever do that? Or like, be like,
Yeah.
you never really thought you'd get around to actually doing it.
Yeah, so I started very slowly. So I'd start and I didn't really tell anyone about it. So
Yeah.
maybe like my immediate circle of friends. And I never really thought I would take it seriously.
Yeah.
But then alhamdulillah, I started picking up. So
Yeah.
as I sort of told my friends and family about it, they told their friends about it. I told people at work that I was working with, and slowly but surely it kept building to alhamdulillah where it is today. But yeah, I'd say for me it was just a case of I loved eating out. So eating is definitely
So
like,
it's
you know, when
more-
people say to me, you know, it's really bad, but I'm not into football, as you know this. So like when I meet someone and we're having a chat, like 10 minutes in, they'll be like, so
Yeah,
what
they
football
bring
team?
up football,
They'll be
yeah.
like, so what football team do you support? And I'll be like,
just throw in a different one every time.
yeah, I'm just like, I just make one. I'll usually say Man U because I used to support Man U, but
Yeah.
like, and then they say, oh, so what do you think of? And
This player or that player, yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, Ronaldo scored this mad goal last weekend. They'll be like,
Ronaldo's not a Man U
they'll be
anymore.
like, bro, Ronaldo hasn't been a Man U for so many years. I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So like they're like, so I guess people wonder what my hobby is. My hobby is eating out, basically.
Yeah, so it's more of a hobby than a job, you'd say.
Definitely. Well, yeah, definitely. It's something I love doing. So,
Mm.
built on from there, and then I kept growing. And as I was growing, I started to sort of network and interact with other bloggers, with
Okay,
restaurants. And at the beginning, I was just going into restaurants and just taking a picture and going.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it came to the point where I was more interested to find out more about the food. So I'll go in and I'll say, hey, is that the owner over there? And I'll be like to the waiter. And I'll be like, hey, can I have a chat with him? And then
Yeah.
I'll start having a chat. So I'd love sort of meeting restaurant owners
Okay.
and just getting to know them. And then I guess that from that grew into this podcast. And I guess to answer your question about how I plan to grow it, bro, the sky's the limit, man.
Yeah,
Inshallah, like,
inshallah, man.
just keep networking with different people and see what
Yeah.
opportunities come up. But I really want to be like a platform where people can share their sort of insights as well. So I don't want it to just be me.
Yeah.
Going forward, I'd love to have other people on the team.
Like, what exactly will the podcast be about then?
So the podcast will be a platform for restaurant owners and generally just foodies to share their story.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to be just restaurant owners because that makes it very
Quite
one-dimensional.
vague,
Yeah, but then I feel like, firstly, everyone loves food, right?
Yeah,
Everyone
that's
loves
true.
food. So there's definitely a conversation where we can have there about getting to know what foods they enjoy, what foods they dislike. So like, for example,
Okay.
one of the episodes I've got planned is with our sister to
Yeah.
speak about her life as a vegan.
Yeah.
I think that being a vegan and Muslim is a
Yes.
very sort of interesting situation, and I'd love to hear. Obviously, I know so much about her, but I feel like there's a lot that I still have to learn about her
Yeah.
experiences
On
being a
the side of
vegan.
veganism, yeah.
Yeah, how she finds it on a day-to-day basis. So I really want to make it a platform where people can come and share their stories, share their experiences, and give the listeners an opportunity to get to know. For example, I might be a listener and I love Nando's, yeah, or I love, I don't know, a certain food
As long
or a
as it's
certain
halal, yeah.
restaurant, of course, halal Nando's only. So I might be a listener and I love a certain restaurant, and for me, this will be an opportunity to get to know the stories behind how this restaurant came into place, because
Yeah.
we may see a restaurant and it looks so successful and everything is going well, but
But
I'd
you want
love
to learn what's going on behind closed doors.
yeah, behind the
Okay.
scenes,
Yeah.
the sort of struggle that they had. So I guess for me, the podcast which influenced me was How I Built This by Guy
Okay.
Raz. It's an American podcast where Guy Raz interviews these amazing entrepreneurs. So I'm talking the owners of brands like Instagram, Airbnb, Five Guys, and he just speaks to them and gets to know them on a personal level and finds out their story to get to where they were today.
Yeah.
And for me, it's sort of bringing that conversation here.
Okay.
And I should really make it clear that I don't just want to focus on the halal niche, but I really feel that because all the people that I'm connected with, well, most of the people I'm connected with and my followers are Muslim, I
Yeah.
feel like that's definitely where I'm starting from. And I'd also like to use this platform to give some benefit as well in terms of Islam.
Yeah.
So, for example, what the Prophet ﷺ, what his diet was like, right? What kind of foods he would eat, living a healthy Islamic lifestyle, and just generally use his platform also to share beneficial reminders about Islam as well. So
Okay.
I just want to make it a platform where this conversation can open up to the wider audience as well.
Okay. So when it comes to performing your blogging and also podcasting, do you find that like any difficulties between shifting from that and your job and your everyday life?
Bro, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Naturally, so working a 9 to 5, of course,
That must be tiring as it
yeah,
is.
alhamdulillah, I love what I do, which
Yeah.
is great.
Alhamdulillah.
Gives me like when you wake up, you're like, yeah, I'm looking forward to going to work. But then everything I do outside, so my blog, this podcast now, is all outside of work. So on my way to work in the morning, if I'm not sleeping because I slept the night before at like 2 a.m., I'll be just getting my post ready for that evening, my
Yeah.
Instagram post. So I might be doing my editing, I might be like writing up the caption, getting it all ready. And on my way home from work again, I'll be like, okay, what am I doing when I get home? So it's sort of in the run up to releasing this podcast, I was getting the templates ready, researching all the equipment that I needed, how to market a podcast, all these sort of things.
Yeah.
So it is hard, but I feel like because it's something I'm passionate about, I don't see it as a chore. And I'd say I'm passionate both about my career in finance, but also everything I do outside. So for me, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like, yeah, I'm really working towards something which I love. Like, for example, I'm always up to like 1, 2 in the morning.
I always hear you, man.
Sorry
Can
about
never
that.
get good night's sleep anymore.
But yeah, man, I feel like my time goes into this, but alhamdulillah, like with Halal Food Diary, I'm now seeing that it grows. And for me, it's all about, like a lot of people say to me, oh, so how much money are you making from this?
Oh,
Or,
yeah.
and I'm like,
So a lot of people think about the financial side of it rather than the actual enjoyment side.
yeah. And for me, Halal Food Diary has never been about making money.
Yeah.
For me,
It's
it's
been about
about,
like making an impact.
yeah. So basically, adding value to people's lives. So for me,
Okay.
being a Muslim, now, alhamdulillah, we got so many restaurants to choose from. But when I started, there weren't that many halal restaurants. Well, there were less halal restaurants,
Okay.
and there was also not that many bloggers. Now it's amazing. There's so many halal bloggers, which I think is fantastic because there's so many different people who will give their opinion on a restaurant, and you can then, as someone who's thinking, oh, shall I go eat at that restaurant? You can read a few and you can get an idea of, okay, 10 people have said I don't like it, so I should probably not go,
Yeah.
as opposed to just 1 or 2. And now there's hundreds. So I think that it's fantastic that this is all growing. But for me personally, it's never been about money. It's always been a fact that it's a passion of mine.
Yeah.
I just want to make it easy for my followers to find those halal restaurants.
Oh, okay.
Like, say for example, you, like today you're going out with your friends, right, to eat.
Yeah.
I just want this to be a platform where people can go and just pinpoint a new place to eat and get an idea of this is what I should try when I get there,
Oh, okay.
and not have to buy the foods that I might have bought and not enjoyed, so they can really have an amazing meal.
Oh, okay.
And moving on from that, the podcast, I want it to be an opportunity where people can really get to know these influential people within the food industry at more of a personal level. So for me, it's a hobby. It's definitely not something that I've tried to make into a career or a job.
Yeah.
If that is the case in the future, that'd be amazing. I'd love that. But
Inshallah, man.
so to answer your question in terms of how I juggle it all, I'd say because I enjoy it and because I can see so many people, when I have people on Instagram message me on my DM, they're like, hey, I went to that restaurant you recommended and I loved it. Just really gives me that satisfaction to keep on going and just growing the page more.
Oh, okay, well, so the last question, but not obviously the least. I see you're posting your Instagram posts quite daily, like here and there. There'll be like once every day or 2 days, whatever.
Yeah.
How often do you be like, what are you planning to do with the podcast? Like, how often do you want to be posting these podcasts then?
Halal Food Diary, for the past few months, I've been posting every other day.
Okay,
But in terms of the podcast, to be honest, we haven't even spoken about the name of the podcast. What's on the table?
What's the, yeah, what was the inspiration behind the name, actually?
I'll quickly just touch on the question, but I will be posting. I'll be releasing an episode every Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So on a Thursday, I'll release the episode, and then the next Thursday, I'll release another. So it gives me a week to record another one, edit it, and get it out, and
Is
plan
that
the
like
next
a
episode.
cemented plan, or is that just an idea right now? Or?
I think that's what I'm going to go with.
Oh, okay, so every Thursday.
Yep, every Thursday.
Cool.
And the episodes will be around 30 to 50 minutes,
Hmm.
no longer than an hour, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, you
and-
never know.
Yeah, you never know. You get those people who really like to talk.
Exactly, yeah, man.
But that's sort of the my idea in terms of how often you're gonna see episodes, and then the inspiration for the name. I'll be honest, I was sort of ready to start the podcast a while ago now. I'd say as soon as I came back from holiday, a few days later, I knew this is what I want to do. But finding a name was tricky.
Yeah, it's quite difficult coming up with names of things. Like, you have to
Yeah,
have a creative mind about it.
yeah. So I asked our sister to help me. I don't want to give a name in case she tells me
Yeah.
off. But
The vegan.
the vegan, that's what we like to call it at home anyway. Me and her sat down and had a think about, sort of drew up a spider diagram of like what the different things are that we're going to be discussing on the episode and from there, we narrowed it down to about 5 ideas. And then I think I asked some friends, and what's on the table seemed to be everyone's
Yeah.
favorite. For me, what's on the table sort of says, give me the story behind what you have delivered to me on in front of me on my plate.
Okay.
So I guess the traditional episode of What's on the Table will be with someone who's maybe a chef or owns a restaurant. And for me, I'm saying, okay, how did
Okay.
you get to where you are today?
Yeah.
So a lot of restaurant owners started very small, right? So I was actually at the restaurant a few days ago for a blogging event, and I was speaking to the restaurant owner who told me he owns multiple restaurants. And I said to him, how did you get to where you are today? And his answer was that he started working in a small restaurant back in the country where he came from. And he sort of worked in the kitchen doing small tasks, and he slowly worked his way up to get to where he is today and to be able to deliver a meal which I thoroughly enjoyed. For me, it's getting to know what the story is that resulted in what I'm eating now.
Okay.
So I guess that's where the inspiration for the name came from.
Wow.
But yeah, that's a bit of an insight into the podcast. And thanks, bro, for
No
the
problem, man.
questions.
I'm always here.
I was worried that they might be a bit more tricky than that, but those are good questions. But yeah,
What's going to be on the table next?
what's on the table next? You'll have to wait and see.